What is up, gamers? The Red Dragon here, and we are checking out the latest news of the day. Going to be discussing the Kinect 2.0. If you missed the reveal yesterday, I'm going to be discussing the new features of the Kinect, but also the privacy concerns and the issues that are coming up, where some people are even referring to it as 1984. So let's first get into what was divulged yesterday at the Xbox One reveal. One, Kinect is definitely an upgrade from its predecessor. It's got 1080p HD, records at 30 frames per second. It also can detect the smallest movement in your body, including a slight turn of the wrist, the rotation of a shoulder. They said that it can even pick up your heartbeat if you're exercising, which I have no idea how that works, but we'll probably hear more about that at E3. What we do know is that Kinect works really well for your TV and maneuvering the Xbox dashboard, because that's all we got to see it displayed. We'll probably get to see some games at E3 and see how great the latency is when somebody's actually up there having to play a game, but we'll have to wait for that. They did show off some new features where you can pinch and pull stuff like you do on smartphones and tablets, so all that was kind of cool, all right? But here is where we start getting into some of the issues. One, every Xbox One that you buy has a Kinect, and the Kinect has to be connected. The Xbox One will not work if you do not have the Kinect connected to the device, which is a little strange to me, but they said it's important that it stays connected. And okay, well, whatever, but Kinect is always listening. And that is the issue that people are having with it, because it stays in a low-powered state, apparently, and it's listening for the player to walk in and say Xbox on. So it's always listening to the conversation, trying to pick up on key words. And Microsoft swears up and down that they're not listening, they're not spying on you, they're only listening for certain keywords like Xbox on. But still, that is not going to suit a lot of people, and a lot of people are not going to be happy with that, because they don't want a device in their living room always listening to their conversations. They want the capability to turn that off, and hopefully we will have that capability to turn that off. But right now, we simply don't know. I did reach out to Microsoft. Xbox support did get back with me. They basically said, look, we take privacy issues very seriously, and they'll be divulging all that information in due time. But they do claim that they have privacy issues at the top of the priority list. But, I mean, a lot of people still are not going to be happy about that. And for good reason, because whenever Xbox first came out, back in 2010, there was a meeting with investors where a Microsoft spokesman was up there, and he was talking about how the Kinect could pass data to advertisers about how you look, play, and speak, and we can cater content that's presented to you based on who you are. Now, this was a speech to investors, so he's trying to get people to invest money, and Microsoft later came out and denied that, saying that they do not pass that information on to target advertising, but who knows what 2013 holds. Phil Harrison did tell Eurogamer yesterday, says, we aren't using Kinect to snoop on anybody at all. We listen for the word Xbox on and then switch on the machine. We don't transmit personal data in any way, shape, or form that could be personally identifiable to you unless you explicitly opt into that. So they're saying that, look, this is the way I read it anyway, we do transmit personal data, but it's not personally identifiable to you unless you want it to be. And then they're saying the capability is there, and apparently this option will be there. At least that's the way I read that paragraph right there, which maybe I'm reading too much into it. But let me tell you why some people still aren't going to be happy with that response. And I've actually got a personal story. A few months ago, I let my best friend and his wife borrow my Kinect because I wasn't using it, and I went over there shortly after I let them borrow it, and I noticed that the Kinect had a towel over it and was turned around backwards. And I said, what in the world are y'all doing? And the wife spoke up, and she said, well, I did that because I didn't like the idea of a camera looking at me. And even though the camera wasn't, you know, watching them, it wasn't listening like this one's going to be doing, it still caused concern for her. And I can completely understand that, you know, from somebody who's they're not a gamer, they're not a techie or whatever. They just didn't like the idea of a camera watching them, and for good reason. There's an article that I'm looking at right now from the Today Show. That's NBC News, and they're talking about how easy it is for hackers to hack into your PC webcams and spy on people. And there's people in prison right now who finally got caught. But how easy it is for them to watch you through your webcam without you ever knowing it. Now, obviously, Kinect is not just your average webcam, and I'm sure Microsoft is going to have all kinds of features built into it, but still, that possibility, I'm sure, has to be there. If you're connected on the internet, information has to pass back and forth, and while there may be security measures, there might be walls, eventually, someone usually figures out some way to break it down and screw the pooch. So, I mean, I don't know. I kind of get this, and it is scary. I don't want some device in my living room constantly listening to me and my information. I don't want advertisers getting it, and I sure don't want the government or the Department of Justice getting it. And the way these corporations work a lot of times with the DOJ, I just read a story yesterday where Google had easily given up tons of emails, apparently from reporters or something. I don't know, but anyway. Of course, Google, Microsoft, not the same company, but both have privacy concerns in certain areas. And so this is going to be something to definitely watch and see how they handle this situation. What do you think about it? Are you happy that Kinect is always on, that it's always listening to it, to you and your family or whoever? Do you have a problem with that? And if Microsoft does not give you the option to turn that off and disable it, could that prevent you from buying an Xbox One if the other news that I've given you lately hasn't already turned you off of it? Will that? So post your comments below. I want to hear from you and your opinion on the Kinect 2.0. If you want the latest news and information, be sure you check out the links in the description box. Everything's there, the stories that I've cited. Also, be sure you check out VGMVideoGamesandNews.com. And that does it for me, the Red Dragon. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.